From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Coming up on today's show, all about them Tigers. It is LSU week. We heard from the coordinators on Monday. We'll break it all down for you here on the program. Wake Up Warchant, part of the Warchant.com family. Join us for only $1 American for an entire year of access to the website. You could have got a full blow-by-blow of Corey typing out all the updates on Mike Norvell. You wouldn't have to wait until this podcast to find out all the things he said if you were a subscriber. Go over to our website. Try us out. 1 whole year for only $1 measly. Can't beat it. I guarantee you will be pleased. Warchant.com, Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee. It is Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, Trivia Tuesday. Is Tuesday like your favorite non-Friday, Saturday day of the week, Corey, since it is trivia at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill?
That's a great question, Aslan. I appreciate it. Thanks for asking me. Thanks for having me too, by the way. Probably. I'm a sucker for trivia, man. You know that. I always like to feel smart. I loved when we hosted. I thought that was fun too. But yeah, I'd say Thursday's a close second though, right? I love Thursdays, and I always have ever since I was in college. It's just like, all right, the weekend's essentially here. We've essentially made it. It feels like a Friday night light, but you can still get a little wild and crazy because who cares if you're a little out of it on Fridays. So yeah, man, I'd say Tuesdays now because of the great time at Corner Pocket with the trivia, which I've won a couple times, not as much as I'd like. We're usually in the running, top 5-ish, but sometimes the questions just miss us, man. Sometimes they're just categories we don't know anything about, and then we're in trouble.
Okay, I got you. But you guys don't have a lot of there's not a lot of continuity with you, though, right? You have like a revolving door of people, right? You don't have like a core.
We do. A couple of people that played with us a lot have moved on. They went back to school, to Miami and Tampa, respectively. We have people that come in and out, depending on if they have significant others with them. It is a revolving door. We should have a contest on this show that you get to play trivia with Corey and Stephanie.
Absolutely.
At Corner Pocket. That's not a bad idea, Aslan. Great idea. Let's look into that here later on in the fall.
All right. Coming up tomorrow, Wednesday, live show, Corey and I, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Join us for that live on YouTube. Again, if you could hit the thumbs up if you're listening to us on YouTube, that would be really cool. If you're on your Apple device, 5-star rating and review. All right, so as we flip things here and spin things forward to LSU on Monday, probably the biggest news was just all the injury sort of stuff. Very surprised. Our own Gene Williams had reported a few weeks ago that what he had heard source-wise was that Maurice probably not as bad as originally thought. We were there in Jacksonville, both Corey and I, when he went down, and it just, his body reaction, the way he responded to it, the way he exited the field just kind of made you think this is probably going to be a while. He reemerges on to the week 2 or week 1. Are we going to say week 1 since we played in week 0? I don't know. It's going to be weird.
LSU game. That's what we're calling it, baby.
Right. He's on the depth chart. I don't know if it's Darius or him or if it's Darius and then Bavion or somebody else, but the fact that he's on there.
Bavion. Nice. A blast from the past.
Darius. Sorry, Maurice or I don't know, Schrader might have been on it. But the fact that the shout out to Alex Atkins for basically leaking out that they expect him to practice. I mean, I asked Alex this to try to get an answer, and I didn't get it, so it's my fault for not asking it right. I wonder how you're going to do the math on whether you want to have an 80% Maurice Smith, if that's the best you'll have of him right now. I don't know, man. He hasn't practiced in a while. We've been at practice. Even if he practices this week, I don't know if that's enough to go ahead against like a 6'5", 305-pound defensive tackle like Mason Smith, but I guess we just trust the coaches to put the best 5 out there, Corey. Maybe Maurice is part of that.
Yeah, I don't know if he's the best 5 this week, just because, like you said, it's been a minute, and you got to get reacclimated, and you got to play a whole game. I mean, you got to get your body conditioned to maybe play 80 snaps. But man, it's a nice if he's out there practicing and can go. Just his ability to go to be available is such a big deal. Because I'm of the opinion I liked what I saw with Gibbons at center. I did. I liked Gibbons at center. I liked Turnentine at guard. And Emmanuel at guard. That's a big interior, and you're going to need that. That to me gives you the best chance against LSU because I mean, they're strong on the entire defensive front, but that one defensive tackle's he's just a beast, man. He's really, really good. He's going to be probably a first-round pick. So they got a defensive end that's going to be probably their two defensive ends are probably going to be drafted pretty high, but you need a big offensive line. You need guys that are as healthy as can be. I don't know that you run out. I don't know if it's ideal to have a 75% or 80% Maurice Smith out there, or maybe he's 100% but just hasn't practiced in a while. But say you're getting killed. Say for whatever reason, Turn-and-Tine is just getting destroyed. Just can't handle it.
He becomes a turnstile. There
you go. We don't want that to be your nickname, Jazz. Yeah. It better not be your nickname, buddy. But so he's not playing well. Well, then you have an option. Okay, Dylan, you slide over to guard. Emmanuel, you slide to the other guard spot. Maurice Smith, you're now our center. That's a positive, right?
Absolutely.
Just being able to have that depth and that versatility is a really big deal against a defensive line like this. Because I actually did a little deep dive into LSU, Aslan. I know we'll talk about them throughout the week and later on this show. By far, the strength of their team, by far, is defensive line, and then number 2 is wide receiver. That's it. Everywhere else, I feel very comfortable and confident with what Florida State can do to them. I think Florida State matches up very well at every other position. Defensive line against your offensive line, that could be an issue. And then your corners against their wide receivers. And that's not that I think Florida State's DBs are bad. All secondaries are going to have an issue with this LSU receiving core. I mean, they're pretty darn good. So those are your two issues. So to give you your best chance, you need as many bodies as you can at both positions, and we'll get to Cooper in a second. But Maurice Smith, being able to add him back to the mix potentially, a guy that started for 2.5, 3 years, is a really positive sign, man. And maybe he doesn't even play against LSU, but at least he's out there and you got that as an option. And then maybe you see where you are going to Louisville in, what would that be, 12 days after that.
Yeah. And I guess this obviously would then, if Maurice is able to play, then that means Darius is also available to flex out and back up other guys if somebody else goes down. Because
if he's available, we don't know if he's available. That wasn't really asked, but hearing the news, like Norvell was positive about it, but it's always dicey hearing Mike talk about injuries.
Yeah.
But I thought Atkins, like you said, was quite insightful, saying he's hungry and we're expecting him to practice this week is essentially what he said.
How about Johnny? Johnny's probably just as much of on everybody's mind here in Tallahassee for his availability. Johnny Wilson, 1 catch, 51 yards, but then left the game in the first half against Duquesne. Sounded like he went through stuff on Sunday. They do practice on Sunday, folks, like a walkthrough, I guess, correct mistakes from the previous game. They don't practice on Mondays. But it sounds like I think we'll have Johnny, right? That's kind of what I gleaned from it. What about you, Corey?
Yeah, what should be most encouraging when you're hearing Norvell talk about that injury in particular is that he wanted to go back in the game. Like, he didn't say that on Saturday night when I asked him, but on Monday when he was asked about Johnny, he's like, look, he actually said it was kind of a game time. Like he wanted to go back in the game. It was iffy, sort of was the way Norvell, what he intimated about Johnny's injury, but they could see pretty quickly, okay, this game is a wrap. We don't need to risk him anymore. If there's any pain at all, if there's any discomfort at all, there's no reason for him to be out on the field. So I think that came into the calculus of that decision, but it sounded like he could have played and he wanted to play, which is very encouraging. Now, look, man, he's got an extra day to get ready, to get treatment. And, you have to imagine if it was 50-50, whether he could have gone back into that game with a week off. And I don't know if it's a week off. For all we know, he'll be out there practicing running full speed on Tuesday. But getting some time off in the next 4 or 5 days should really help him for Sunday night, because that's when you need him the most. And it sounds like maybe he would be available too.
And isn't the way Norvell, the way he talked about him, the way he's managing Johnny Wilson, doesn't that kind of maybe underscore just how valuable he can be for them? Like, he saw what he needed to see from Duquesne. He's like, all right, man, like, I believe in this kid. I'm not going to chance him for this game because I know he can do so much for us the next 11 weeks.
Oh, absolutely, man. And also, like, what would be the point? Like, I get it that, and I would have liked him to catch 4 or 5 passes just to get in a zone, to get comfortable, get in a zone, but not risking a gimpy ankle turning into a sprained ankle, turning out to he's out for a month. And now it's not worth the risk. There will be some growing pains with Johnny Wilson for the next 2 or 3 games. He will drop a few passes here and there, but yes, he is unlike anything they have. He is unlike anything LSU will have to go against. And that is a weapon that just is, if the ball is thrown correctly and he catches it, is indefensible. It's unguardable. There's nothing you can do. You throw a ball to where only Johnny Wilson can get it, and there's really nothing you can do other than interfere with them and hope they don't call it. That's the kind of weapon that Johnny Wilson can be. And yes, I think Mike Norvell is very confident in what he's going to give them this year. Like, quietly confident too. Like, you've asked him a couple times, or we have early on in camp, and just that wry smile he gets. He knows, like, I think he feels like he's about to spring something on the rest of the ACC. Like, you guys have no idea what 14 can do. No idea. And then I think he kind of maybe feels that way a little bit about Deuce Spann. Like, all of a sudden you got 2 wild cards. And again, I don't expect both those guys to have 6 for 180 against LSU. It is going to be a work in progress. These guys have not experienced any real success at the college level. They've never been counted on at this position to be a playmaker and a consistent playmaker. So they have to grow into that role. And again, I'm not going to just compare them because of the size, but think of Kelvin Benjamin 2012. We heard all camp. He was dominating the camps. He was really good. Then when the game started, he was just kind of He made a few plays here and there, but he had to grow into being counted on and dependable. I think Johnny's further along than Kelvin was when Kelvin was going through his growing process, but there's still going to be a ways. In the same thing with Deuce Spann. Still kind of a little bit of projects, but man, when you project what they can be, it's just not something we're used to having around here, man. I mean, it's just not. Like 6'4", 6'7". Portier and McClain are both 6'3", 6'4". Pittman can be one of the better slot receivers in the ACC, in my opinion. All of a sudden you feel pretty darn good about the receiving core. And that doesn't include, again, like we talked about last week, Winston Wright, who will be back this season and should be think about that, man. Winston Wright, he's almost an afterthought. Now, he won't be once we see him play and he's full speed, but right now he's an afterthought. And that guy was the guy coming in out of the portal. So you like where the receiving core is, as long as the starting quarterback stays healthy. I love you, Tate. You know I love you, dog. Prove me wrong. Prove them all wrong.
Again, Winston Wright, the leading receiver for West Virginia last year, car accident in March. Hope to get him back here sooner rather than later. You did mention then matchups, LSU's receivers on Florida State's cornerbacks, probably a little bit of an edge towards the LSU receivers. Be on the lookout for the matchup that Austin Cox does, where it's going to probably be a doozy, this one. We'll see if he gives a slight edge or a final.
Can I give you a little info on the LSU?
Sure.
The LSU roster.
Yeah.
So I was looking it up because I wanted to see like what kind of experience they have coming back. And essentially the offensive line, they have 5 guys. Obviously, every offensive line has 5 guys. They've made a career 9 starts at LSU combined. No. Their starting offensive guard is a transfer from East Tennessee State. Now,
he was not Tremont Shorts, isn't he? He said he'll be in the mix, but he's not one of the guys that he has. He's got Bradford and Miles Frazier. He said today, on Monday, Brian Kelly.
Yeah, but I thought Bradford was at tackle.
No, he's going to be in one of the guard spots. I think Weyer's one of the kids got tackle, and then Campbell, the true freshman, will be the other.
So yeah, this was a projected depth chart I saw. So the Frazier kid is a Florida International transfer,
which we wanted. We were in on him. Yeah, we were in on him.
Yeah, he was a good Florida International player. He was, and again, you can't poo-poo those guys, right? Like, isn't that where DLT came from?
Yeah.
So those guys can play, but again, it's a Florida International transfer. You're catching LSU. Sometimes they have guys that have been all SEC guys that you're having to play against that are all Americans. That's not the case. You got a true freshman. He's a 5-star, but a true freshman at one of the tackle spots. The center has 4 career starts. Bradford, the other guy that's had that experience, has some experience, has 5 career starts. And you have a couple transfers in the mix too, from East Tennessee State, Florida International, and then one guy that's actually played a lot for them. So they really only have one dude that's got consistent starting time on the offensive line. Their running back is a Penn State transfer that averaged less than 3 yards per carry. That's because their good running back is probably suspended, right?
Emory.
John Emory.
On Monday he said that there's stuff beyond his control. He's done everything within Brian Kelly's sort of purview to be able to play, but there's some things that are above his pay grade. I guess NCAA stuff. So it sounds like Emory's probably not going to play for them on Sunday.
And then when you look at the defense, again, the defensive line, the BJ, is it Ojulari?
Ojulari,
he's good. Mason Smith's really good. Ollie Gay is an all-ACC caliber guy. But then their linebackers. Guy started 5 times at LSU. And he had 7 starts at Clemson, Mike Jones.
Yep.
But wasn't anything special at either place in his first 2 years.
Correct.
Greg Penn, the other linebacker, has 1 career start. They have 4 guys, and out of their 5 in the secondary, 4 of them are transfers. 3 of them are first-year transfers, a guy from Arkansas, a guy from McNeese State, and a guy from Oklahoma State. Now, they played a ton of football. I can't believe the guy from Oklahoma State, Jarek Bernard Converse, has 47 straight starts.
Yeah.
That's going to be a record, right? If he starts every game for LSU, he'll have started 60 consecutive games. That can never be broken. But he was never all Big 12, never honorable mention all Big 12. The kid at Arkansas was never honorable mention all SEC. The point being, yeah, they have a lot of experience in the secondary, and they came from other big-time-ish programs except for the kid at McNeese State. But, man, when you run into LSU, usually you are talking about first team all-SEC guys, all-American potential, first-round pick potential. Now you've got just a kind of a group of guys just at pretty good college football players. And when you good to pretty good. And when you're playing LSU and their secondary is just kind of filled with pretty good or decent secondary guys, you've caught a break.
Yeah.
You've caught a break. These guys aren't special. And that's not to say that Florida State has a bunch of special dudes running around, but Florida State hasn't had the success that LSU has had on the recruiting trail lately. Like a special guy is the guy we were talking about yesterday, the kid that transferred to Alabama. Is it
Ricks? Yeah, Eli Ricks. Yeah,
that kid is special. We know what special DBs look like. LSU doesn't have any. They have some pretty good, decent college football players. So, again, I just think you're catching a break with that back 7. There's no real star power there. They are not incredible. They are not overwhelming athletically. You should match up very favorably with them. It's the DBs and the O-line, and then on the other side, it's your DBs against their wide receivers. But part of that is, can the quarterback throw them the ball? So, again, you look at just looking at this roster and they're starting 22. Usually when you play LSU, you're like, oh, good grief.
Yeah.
Good luck here, here, and here. Look, they have the best defensive lineman on the field with Mason Smith. Maybe probably the top the two best defensive linemen. Yeah. And they have the single best player in the game with Keyshawn Butte. But other than that, Keyshawn, sorry. I'm going to call him Keyshawn because of Helton.
Yeah.
But other than that, man, you feel okay, dude. You feel all right looking at their roster. It's a bunch of just kind of pretty good guys or unproven guys, which you love playing. And it's their first game. You love playing LSU when they're unproven. A new system.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is kind of where some of my confidence came from in the offseason about matching up with it. There was, I thought they had somebody maybe at each level of their defense, but with you kind of going over it again, it does seem like most of it's focused and centered on the defensive line. I don't know if Ojulari or Gabe plays like an outside linebacker hybrid kind of role, so maybe that gives them some kind of a boost at linebacker. But I don't know if House is going to run a 4-2-5 where they're relying on Jones and the other gentleman you talked about to give them sort of
Greg Penn, the great Greg Penn.
Yeah. So. Yeah, man, I feel pretty decentish about all of it. There's no reason to be scared of this program, this team. Let's get back to injuries real quick, though. Duke Cooper's a guy who did not suit up on Saturday against Duquesne. When we did speak to Norvell after the game on Saturday, very encouraged about what Duke's status would be for this week. We kind of heard that a little bit followed up with Norvell on Monday, as well as Adam Fuller. He did want to play, it sounded like, and Adam kind of might have saved him from himself. So that takes a little bit of a burden off concerns that Duke will be available, right?
It sure sounded like it. The way Fuller talked about him sounded like it was, Fuller made the decision for him that he wasn't playing, and Cooper was disappointed that he wasn't allowed to play, which again means that he thought he could have played, which if he thought he could play against Duquesne, you have to imagine he's out there on Sunday night. You just have to. But they are going to need all hands on deck. I was thinking about it. I don't know if you could tell from the TV angle in the first half, Aslan. I assume you could, how far off the Duquesne corners were playing. Off Florida State's receivers, but sometimes it was like they must have almost been out of the picture. They were so far back. I wonder how Florida State is going to play these guys. If they are going to see, like
how LSU's going to play.
How Florida State's going to play the LSU receivers.
Okay.
Are they going to switch it up and play like that, like the Duquesne guys? Like, we are just not letting you run past us. If Jane Daniels can lead you on a 12-play drive, hitting a bunch of 3rd and 4s or making throws, 5 or 6 completions to get you down the field, God bless you. Good job. We are not going to give you a free 80 because your guy just runs by our corner, playing bump and run with no safety help over the top. That's what I wonder. And, you got to switch it up. You can't just run the same defense every play. But I do wonder if the Florida State corners back off a little bit and see if they can put sustained drives together, because I think they feel like they're going to be able to stop the run. Because LSU didn't run the ball well last year, man. And like I said, their best running back isn't playing. The kid they brought in, I mean, I don't know what Penn State's blocking grades were last year, but the averaging 3 yards a rush at Penn State, that doesn't fill you with a ton of confidence. Had like 330 yards on 107 carries, the Noah Cain kid. Yeah. So it's not Leonard Fournette. You know, this isn't
Ali Broussard.
One of the Falk brothers. This guy isn't crazy electric.
Jacob Hester.
Yeah, the great Jacob Hester, the fourth down machine. So, but like, you know what I mean? Like usually when you run an LSU, they've got a dynamic back. I mean, it's LS friggin' U. But Noah Cain doesn't sound that dynamic. And the guy behind him, Armani Goodwin, has 65 yards rushing in his career. Now, he might be great, but none of these guys are proven really anywhere except at, wide receiver, where they have one of the best ones in the country. I didn't realize, man. So he basically played 5 games last year, Butte.
Yeah.
And had 38 for 509 and 9 touchdowns.
Yeah.
In 5 games.
Yeah.
Who boy. That's why you need Cooper, man. You need all hands on deck. And you just can't give them a free 80. You just can't give them a free 80. Like, make them go earn it. I know we hate the bend but don't break. They're not going to play it all the time. You can't play 14 yards off because those are free first downs. And he can still make your corner miss. And then it's he can go 50 even if you're playing off him. But man, you've got to keep him from running by you. You've just got to keep from giving, because Jane Daniels can probably make those throws. He can throw to dudes running down the field, down the sideline. It's the intermediate stuff that you wonder, especially in his first game with a whole new system and a new receiving core. The communication on those throws is where you might be able to make some hay, not just, I got the best receiver in the country out there one-on-one. Let me just lob it up. This no thinking offense. I'm just going to throw it up. Little rainbow offense. Go back to the Chris Ricks days.
Well, Butte's only 6, so you really can't do the above the rim stuff with him. You got to.
No, I meant just like throw it up and go get it. Like, I'm just going to throw it as far as I can. You go run and get it, big man, because they can't run with you.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, what I would say though is, again, he hasn't announced a starting quarterback. Brian Kelly on Monday said that Florida State had the advantage of playing one game. His advantage is kind of sleeping or holding the wild card of who his starting quarterback is going to be until game day. So he's not going to reveal it. By all indications, it sounds like it's going to be Jaden Daniels. But if you do play off these guys early on, Corey, like, that is going to give Jaden Daniels easy completions, and then that gets him into a rhythm. And I don't know if I'm all honky dory about that. I don't think I want to give him easy sort of windows and reps to start off a game of this magnitude. I'd like to see them challenge the receivers, make him have to take a throw in traffic that's contested that might get tipped, and then who knows what's going to happen. Again, I know you're going to mix and match. They're not going to do one of these things, obviously exclusively throughout the game, but I do think you need to come out aggressive and really make that kid earn whatever he's going to get through the air.
I'm just more worried about it's a no. You don't even have to have a read, really, man. If you see Renardo Green one-on-one with the best receiver in the country, and the safety isn't over the top necessarily, you think you've got man-to-man outside, it is an easy just go.
I know, but why would you have your safety in the – I mean, you're not really fearing their run game all that much.
Yeah, you could. Jamie or Akeem could be back there. It's just they got weapons on both sides. It's a lot to ask those corners to play bump and run with those guys the whole game, and they won't. Yeah. But I just feel like as a quarterback that's trying to find his footing, man – you can feel so good about yourself just by having one of your fast dudes run down the sideline and lob it up to him. Just lob it up to him. Like, not lob it up like it's a rebound. Lob it up like out in front and make him go get it. You don't have to read the defense as much on those throws, and that's what I worry about. You just don't want to give him a free 80, man. Like, if Jane Daniels gets into a rhythm, fine. He's still got to do something inside the 20 when everything shrinks. I mean, you don't want to give up 9 field goals, but if they just drive to your 20 every time and settle for field goals, that's better than giving up a couple 80-yarders. And this kid lives on 75 and 80-yard touchdowns. Butte, I mean. So, and I just mainly because, Aslan, I think you're set everywhere else. I legitimately think you're probably the better team at every position, but 2 kind of really important ones, the defensive line and the wide receiver. But so if you can just minimize your disadvantage against their wide receivers, I just think that gives you a better chance to win. But you're right. Jamie's always helping over the top, or Akeem's always helping over the top. I mean, Butte has to get a lot of attention, and they're used to him getting attention, clearly. And I thought it was interesting what Adam Fuller said when he was talking about scouting an offensive coordinator. Because who's the LSU OC? He was at Cincinnati, right?
Mike Denbrock, yes, correct.
Yeah, so Fuller coached against them a couple of times, right?
Yes.
And he's like, when you're trying to go back into a guy's history to predict what kind of play caller, he's like, you scout the play caller more than you scout the play caller and you scout the personnel. But what he meant by that was, and he even explained it, is like, what has he done when he's had a receiver like this before? How they got, like, if he's had a special receiver, how has he gotten him the ball? What plays they dial up to make sure he gets the ball, even when he's got a lot of attention? So they're going back and scouting, and they have since the summer, all of that kind of stuff to figure out the ways they're going to try to get Boutte the ball. Because there will be ways, and they're, he's not creating stuff out of thin air. It's probably plays he's run his whole career. So they go back and scout what Cincinnati did to get their best receiver the ball, because that's what they'll be doing on Sunday night.
Winning season has officially returned, everybody. The NFL preseason, but, I can customize this. You folks care about college football. What a weekend we have coming up. Saturday, big-time games everywhere. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Utah in the Swamp. You got Georgia taking on the Ducks, Quack. And then, obviously, Sunday, everybody watching Florida State taking on LSU. Only a 3-point spread over at MyBookie. Use MyBookie, and when you sign up and use the promo code WARCHANT on your first deposit, you will instantly double your funds. So you drop $100, you'll have $200 to work with. Maybe I put all of it on Florida State as a dog straight up. Corey's got us feeling really good. MyBookie's got everything you need: single games, contests, prop bets. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Corey, you ready to go all in? 3-point +3, Florida State money line, or we need a couple more?
Well, I'm going to do the money line for the Noles because you get some money there, and then I'm just going to play. I'm going to also take them with the 3 points. I'm going to make both bets.
Ooh.
I'm going to bet them to win outright, and then I'm also going to bet getting the 3, because I'll take the 3 points if you want to give it to me. Because as you've listened to me talk, what am I predicting, Aslan? About 41-20?
Ooh.
Somewhere in there. That's a joke, folks. Come on now. It's not going to be 41-20. But I do think they're going to win straight up. So there you go. I'll take the 3 points. Don't need them, but I'll take them.
There we go. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie, mybookie.ag, promo code WARCHANT. First deposit, double. What about the 51 points, though, Corey? The 51, I'm taking the over on it still. We don't know the quarterback. I mean, you've talked about them maybe having a bit of a ramshackled offensive line. They don't have a dynamic running back. Their receivers are quite intimidating. So maybe the under is the play, but I don't know, man. I just feel like, Jordan's going to make plays. That kid's going to find a way to respond, and maybe we can't get home quick enough on defense, and we're going to see a high-scoring game. Does either one of those make you feel better about Florida State's chances? Like if it hits on the over, do you think that means Florida State probably has a more likely to win? Or if it stays low-scoring, that means that's a better ground, a better area for Florida State to flirt around in?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, I would like it to be the over just because that sounds like a more exciting football game. But yeah, no, I don't know which portends to success more, if it's a low-scoring game or a high-scoring game. I know what I want to see from this offense this year, and it's more than 26 points a game. So in that regard, you're playing a defense that was not good last year. I know it's a whole slew of new faces, but again, they're new faces. None of these dudes have played together before, and it's their first game with a new coordinator. Like, there's no real excuse. And this is the point I wanted to bring up when I was talking about the secondary. Is that, man, they've got a ton of starts. I think combined, you're talking about guys that have made over 100 starts in college, their secondary. But they've never played together. And in the secondary, it is all about communicate. Well, it's physical ability is paramount. But after that, so much is dependent on communication. And you've got to think and hope and expect that there will be some busts, because it's just guys that have never played together. So the safeties haven't played much at all, and the corners are all new and from different programs. So you just feel like that's ripe to hit some big plays down the middle of the field if Jordan sees it, or if Norvell dials up the right looks. So that, and the same thing with the offensive line, right? Like those offensive, man, they're all 4-star guys. The starting left tackle is a true freshman, but he's a 5-star. He was the number 1 player in the state. He was like the number 5 player in the country. Like, he was a really big get. And apparently he's going to, he's going to be an NFL player.
Didn't Notre Dame trot out a true freshman at tackle, and then Jermaine quickly had him benched within the first half? Not that Jermaine is going to be out there.
I was going to say, Jermaine's not on this team, but but my point being that even if he's good, even if he's going to end up being probably pretty darn good, they don't usually miss on the 5-star offensive linemen, their evaluations on those guys. So he might end up being really good. He might end up being really good by the end of this year. He is going to have some growing pains in his first start. It's just natural. He's not going up against McNeese State or Duquesne. Derek McClendon isn't, Peter Boulware, but he's a pretty decent college football player. Jared Verse might be really good. We don't know. This guy's going to have to, he's being thrown into the fire. And again, these guys haven't ever played a lot of football together. It's a mismatched unit, man. It's got a guy from Florida International that's going to be starting. It's got a bunch of dudes that have started 2 or 3 games in their careers.
Yeah, Dellinger,
one guy that started 0.
Yeah, I don't think Dellinger's a natural center. I think he might have played some other spots. So yeah, they're breaking all that new in.
The guy that has the most career starts for them has 9 starts in his career at left tackle. Again, he's not. Darius Washington has like 20-something starts in his career. So they're talented, I'm sure, but that experience, that's where you can get them. That's where you can get them. There will be communication issues. There will be some Florida State fans in that stadium, and they might make it loud on 3rd and 9. There could be some communication issues with that offensive line playing their first game. Same with the secondary. You can take advantage of those 2 things. You're good. You're playing them in the first game of the season, early September. If we were playing them in November, and I say we as the royal we, it could probably be a completely different outlook, because I think they're going to grow leaps and bounds in the next 2 or 3 months. But right now, man, they are prime for the picking. They're prime. And you just got to make sure that you don't give up 300 yards to the good receiver.
Yeah, when I think about what Brian Kelly said at his press conference on Monday when he was asked about Jordan Travis, his familiarity with him, showed pretty good amount of respect for Jordan, talked about the key for them is going to be boxing him up, not letting him get outside the pocket, because when he does, that's when opposing teams have a lot of trouble. And I don't think they're going to have to be like this really risk-taking offense, which I don't think Jordan's going to have to put his body on the line or do a lot of sort of improvisation. I just think that, man, like to your point about their secondary being so untested, but then we don't know how this offensive line is going to hold. But if this offensive line can hold their end of the bargain, I like Jordan throwing to these receivers against those cornerbacks, and I just think that's going to portend to probably something more than a 27-24 final score.
Yeah, I mean, if you just go by last year, right, when they played the Notre Dame defense, and that was a good Notre Dame team, didn't they? Well, they finished with 11 wins.
Something like that. Yeah,
they
pretty good Power 6 bowl, but they blew it though. They blew Marcus Freeman.
Yep. But so you know how many yards they ran for against Notre Dame last year?
230.
264.
Woo!
You know how many Jordan Travis had?
Like 30.
9.
Oh, look at that. Who busted loose? Was it Jay Sean?
Well, Corbin had a 89-yarder. That helped. Ward had 11 for 76. Corbin had 15 for 144. Toafili had 6 for 34. Now, they did a great job of bottling in Jordan Travis, which was their game plan, clearly. But, man, that opens up running lanes for other people. And we like this running back room. I think this running back room is probably more talented than last year's running back room. There's probably not even a more probably about it. Ward and Toafili are better. Benson, I think, is at least Corbin's equal. He might be better. So you feel good about, boxing Jordan Travis. Worry about that. You should, because he does make plays outside the pocket. But if you're widening out your gaps, you're opening up holes. If you're trying to rush to make sure he doesn't break containment, you're opening up holes. And they gashed Notre Dame last year. I mean, 264. Nobody else could have run for that much against Notre Dame. That's crazy. And Jordan Travis's just presence back there is the reason they ran for that many yards. Now imagine that Jordan Travis, who I think is light years better than this Jordan Travis is light years better than that Jordan Travis. And he's got, 10, 11 more games under his belt with weapons to throw to. There is a chance, guys. Now, again, I'm saying this, granting that maybe they only score 6 points, and I'm calling for Norvell's job this time next week. But, man, when you think about the weapons he has that he didn't have last year, along with I think a better offensive line, if this current incarnation can stay on the field, and better running backs, and I don't know. LSU's defensive line is better than Notre Dame's was last year, clearly. but I don't know if the defense as a whole is better than Notre Dame's last year. And you lit Notre Dame up.
Yeah.
You ran for 260 in that game. So I don't know, man. I think I think they should score 30 points, man. Give me 30. Just give me 30, Mike. Win or lose, give me 30. If you lose 36-30 because you can't cover their receivers, all right, man, it will be frustrating. It'll be disappointing. But at least you see some hope with that offense. Give me 30 points.
Yeah, and even if Florida State's offensive line doesn't hold up, maybe then that brings Jordan's ability more into focus about being a dual threat guy, and then they can try to hem him in. And if the offensive line can't hold, I still think Jordan has a pretty good knack about scrambling and getting away. It's a really deceptive kind of speed that he has, but he showed it over and over again. So, I don't know if I want to say this really just comes down to Florida State's offensive line. If they can hold up and block, this is going to be, it's a really good matchup favorably for Florida State on the perimeter, on the outside with the receiving game. But I think even if B.J. Ojulari gives Robert Scott a headache, or I don't know, he'll go against Bless Harris if he's coming off the right side. Jordan's shown an ability to get away from stuff and comport himself fairly well. Maybe they had a lead on Clemson, in Death Valley. So this is neutral site-ish. I wonder what the split's going to be in the stands. I know Florida State's sold their full allotment, but I don't
think it'll be like 60-40 LSU.
Yeah.
Maybe 65-35. I mean, I think it wasn't 30,000 Florida State tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many is a Superdome seat? 70?
Something
Let me
like
look that up, Aslan. I'm going to look that up. You keep talking.
Yeah, so that makes me wonder, again, just how LSU is going to try to figure out a way to limit Florida State offensively. I just think there's so many different ways Florida State's going to be able to move the ball on them, even if the offensive line maybe doesn't hold their end of the bargain, provided that doesn't result in Jordan Travis getting hit a bunch and getting hurt, because then that would change the entire calculus of everything. I think maybe I'm even more interested, I think, about how Florida State's defensive line is going to do against LSU's offensive line, because if LSU's offensive line holds up well, that is probably the more concerning thing in terms of what the fortunes will be for that game, because if he's got time to throw, those guys are going to get open. They just will, and it's nothing against Florida State's cornerbacks. It's just the way the game's played this day and age. So what do we got for the Superdome attendance scoring?
It's 76,468. So I just did a little quick math. So 30,000 is represents 39% of capacity. So yeah, like I said, 60-40. Well, but it'll be a lot, and you don't know there might be some just casual football fans that want to go to the game that aren't cheering for either.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure each school got the same allotment, right? Because this isn't and then everything else is corporate seating or whatever. So. But it is in New Orleans, so those corporate seats are probably going to LSU fans. But whatever, we'll hush them up. Just remember to bring a jacket, Corey. It's freezing in the press box. Just remember to bring a jacket.
Oh, thanks, man. Good tip. I've never been in the Superdome press box.
Really?
Why would I have been? So that's a good tip, Aslan. I appreciate it, man.
It's our first time in there since 2003, January 1st, Sugar Bowl, 2002 season.
Anquan Bolden at quarterback.
Was it David Green at quarterback for the Dogs?
That's right. David Green quarterbacked them to Mark Richt's second year, quarterbacked them to their first SEC title in 20 years. And if Talman Gardner catches that pass, that perfectly thrown pass from Anquan, it's a whole different ball game. But yeah, I think Georgia was the better team, and but still, it was disappointing that Talman dropped that pass, and Florida State had to play a receiver at quarterback.
It's exciting though, Corey, right? Like, again, we don't know exactly what this team is after what we saw from Duquesne, but this is going to give us quite a good idea of how the season's going to go. I know we said that the Notre Dame game that was not a trial balloon of any sort for how this team was going to end up playing last year. We thought it was going to be, but I don't know, maybe do you have a sense at all? I mean, or do you still think this is just an individual game and it really won't dictate how this team is end up going to looking in October, November?
Yeah, it's just hard because they were so different like the beginning of November of last year compared to like middle of September. Like they did look like a completely different team. That it's hard to predict. Okay, if they go out there and well, now look, I guess I'm talking in the spirit of if they lose this game. I don't think you like that portends to them not being able to win 6 games in the ACC. Even if they lose kind of ugly, there's never going to be an uglier loss than the one they had last year. And they responded, 3 weeks later, kind of well. I don't know what I would be looking for mainly more than just an overall feeling of the team and how it's going to perform is what do we know about each of these guys? Like we knew third week of the season, really third quarter of the season. Jermaine Johnson is as good as we thought. Mm-hmm. Like that guy can play. Keir Thomas can play. Corbin and Ward were a good running back duo. We didn't know much else about that defense. Really, we didn't. It took halfway through the season until Deloach turned into something. Jamie Robinson, once they moved him back to safety, he became a real difference maker. But you didn't know, like we couldn't tell anything about that defense from those first 2 or 3 weeks. And then they completely changed. So I will give this coaching staff the benefit of the doubt if it goes south on Sunday, that there will be corrections made and there will be improvements made as far as the overall concept of the offense, defense, and team. But individually, dude, I want to see if Deuce Spann can make plays in a moment like this. Because if he can go up and get it and have some big plays and some big third down catches and not shrink in the moment, man, then the sky's the limit. Like he might be a rocket ship waiting to take off. Same thing with Johnny Wilson. Same thing with Micah Pittman. Like these guys, when they make plays, I want to, because I have a suspicion, man, if Wilson and Spann can reach their potential, to go along with those 3 running backs that you have, all of a sudden, don't you feel like you've got a pretty darn good skill position group?
Absolutely.
Like dynamic guys, not just guys, but dynamic guys. But again, I might be putting a little too much stock into what we saw Saturday night. Let's see how Trey Benson breaks tackles against this group. And let's see if Trayshawn Ward and Toafili are making guys look silly like they did in this game. But I think Trayshawn Ward's a good college running back, man. I think Toafili can be. I'm closer and closer to thinking that about Trey Benson. I just want to see it in this game and maybe one more. But man, they've got a lot to like. And same with these receivers. They have the ability that you just hope their production matches the ability. But I guess so. Say Deuce Spann has 4 for 88 in a touchdown. Well, now you got something. Mm-hmm. The rest of the season, you got something, and we can quit calling him a project, and we can start projecting. Okay, Deuce Spann's going to catch 40 or 50 balls this year for 600 yards. Same thing with Johnny Wilson. I mean, if Johnny Wilson keeps averaging 50 yards a catch, he's going to New York for the Heisman ceremony. But same thing, if he has a game or a couple of moments in this game where you can think, okay, it's not just talk, it's not just potential, it's actually happening on the field in moments that matter, then that all gets white. Then all of a sudden, he becomes somebody that you project. Man, I keep going back to Kelvin, not because I am comparing him to Kelvin. Man, none of us expected really, we had no idea what to expect out of Kelvin going to that Pittsburgh game.
But it was kind of like it was his time though, right? Like it was like, man, it's finally time for this to all come together.
But you never know if it does. You never know if it's going to click. You just never do. But it was pretty evident in that Pittsburgh game. Okay, that's what they've been talking about. That's the big freak in the middle of the field that can run away from people too, and it's just a matchup nightmare. There it is. Okay, I see what they're saying. And so you saw that with him, and that obviously that went through the rest of the season. He wasn't an unknown anymore. He was a known person, and he was feared. Deuce Spann and Johnny Wilson can go a long way to doing something similar if they have big games on Sunday, or just a couple of big moments. This team isn't going to have 3 100-yard receivers in any game, but if they have a couple of big moments that take the top off the defense, or convert a 3rd and 12, or catch a 35-yard touchdown pass, something to build on, something to put on film, they are going to be feared the rest of the season.
All right, well said then. Coming up later today, 1 to 3 o'clock, Headlines Live, 93.3 FM, as well as Warchant TV, Seminole Headlines, Irish O'Fell, Corey Clark, Jeff Cameron, in no particular order there. But they'll be breaking things down, giving you a preview on this LSU game. We'll be at practice on Tuesday morning, so stay connected to warchant.com for interviews. I don't know if they're going to let us film practice. I think maybe. But do stay connected. We'll have updates from practice afterwards, observations, things of that nature. And then we'll have a live show for you folks on Wednesday. And then we'll probably do Renegade Express for Friday, and we'll get that done before we get on the road.
Oh, yeah, good point. I was going to say, what are we going to do for the show on Thursday? Because we'll both be driving. But, yeah, you want to do – so you'll put the Renegade Express up on Wednesday then?
Yeah. Well, the question's up. I'll put – I don't know.
Hey, did you see? We didn't even comment on it. But I went back in, and the ones you didn't get to, and the ones you got – you answered like 8 questions that we didn't read on air, and I answered 8 questions that we didn't read on air.
Nice. All right,
so that's the beauty. So that's the beauty, folks. If you ask a question and it doesn't make the show, well, look, we are going to try our best. If it's 90 or 100 questions, we love you, but come on, man, we have lives. But if like last week it was like 35 or so, I think we answered 20 of them, and the other 15, Aslan and I broke up and answered. So that's another reason to join for $1.
Right.
You get to interact with Aslan. Aslan is going to read your question on air, you get to say where your hometown is, you get to become a friend of the show, and also if you don't make the show, then we still talk to you on the Tribal Council. We still post on the Tribal Council, and you interact with 2 local celebrities, right, Aslan?
That's right. Somebody had a good comment. You were a little bit spry in your post on Monday. Said something like, "Ooh, this is going to be a good week. Corey Clark's got jokes on a Monday." I like Corey Clark when he interacts on the Tribal Council. So,
Oh yeah, it was somebody. It's a guy that always is just. I don't well, I'm not even getting into it. But somebody posted when will Florida State release their injury report?
Right.
And I said August 32nd.
Nice.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, guys. They're not doing it. They don't release them. They do it for a reason. But I just saw on Twitter, Steve Sarkisian at Texas doesn't release a depth chart. Just won't have one, and he won't have one for the entire season. So because college football is nuclear secrets, and it's the most important thing on earth. How dare you have a depth chart? Because otherwise, how could you don't want to give an advantage, to the opponent. They're going to know you're. I mean, they probably imagine you'll have a quarterback and a couple receivers out there and 5 linemen. I can't imagine. Why would it matter I don't know who Texas is playing in their first game. I imagine not somebody great.
I think they're actually playing somebody. But go on. I'll see if I can find.
Why would it matter who their offensive guard is? How could that change your practices in the least? Like how could it possibly change or alter anything to know if a right guard is playing or not?
And you're right. Yeah, they're playing Louisiana Monroe. They play Alabama next week.
Right. So what's the purpose? Yeah. And again, I get it with injury. Injury is different. Like I'm not criticizing Norvell because Norvell puts a Norbs on that may or may not play, but I'm talking about not releasing a depth chart. What possible competitive advantage is there to not releasing a depth chart?
Well, you have no idea. I guess you have to look. Well, you look at the roster and you realize
who's who. Yeah. You know who they're going to be playing, man. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know who's going to be out there, and your defensive line still has the same reads and keys. Whether Johnny Smith is at right guard or Taylor Twinkle Toes is at right guard. Golly, Clark, where did that come from? I was going to say Taylor Tomlinson, and I think that's a comedian.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. I think it's a female comedian too. So I got Taylor Tomlinson, is it right? And then I just went with Twinkle Toes. So there you go. I think I'm done, Aslan. I think I'm tapped out. Sorry, I was going to go off on the depth chart, but I just don't have it in me.
Taylor Tomlinson is an American comedian. She's released 2 Netflix stand-ups called Quarter Life Crisis and Look at You. Yeah, apparently too, you're only allowed to use something like 30 seconds of Steve Sarkisian's press conferences on air. Like if you're a local television station, I guess you can film the whole thing, but you can only air 30 seconds of it throughout the week. So
again, folks, I just want you, and this isn't sarcastic, I want you to appreciate what you get. Because look around the country, man. Here's a crazy thing, Aslan. For real. I just saw on Twitter last week, the kid I think his name is A.D. Mitchell. He caught the go-ahead pass in the national championship game. He was a freshman. Yeah. Bennett threw it up to him in the right corner of the end zone. He made a great catch. I think there was like 3 minutes left. It gave Georgia the lead. The first time he was asked a question about that catch was a week ago. He had not been made available to anyone in the last 9 months or whatever that would be.
Well, you can go in the locker room after the national title game, I think. I think after those playoff games, you can go inside the locker room.
Maybe, but I know that
but still, though, they didn't put him on a podium, though. That's
the UJ beat writer that I followed. His whole story was asking that kid about that catch and what was going through his mind when the ball was thrown. It's like, man, did y'all not cover this 7 months ago? What are you asking about it? I mean, you are getting ready to play Oregon. What are you talking about the game from 7.5 months ago? But it's because there's no access there. And again, I know you guys would trade all the access in the world for Georgia's program right now. I'm just saying that, like, be appreciative of what we get to, what you guys get to know and hear about. Like, I bet we talked to 55 players this camp. We talked to Norvell 20 times. We saw 20 practices. We got to, I mean, it's just, we get depth charts. We don't get injury reports. I get it. That's the one hiccup. But I'll take that. I mean, this access is incredible, and it's unprecedented in an era of college football where there's more secrecy than there is with flipping anything. I was going to say White House documents, but this isn't a political show. But classified secrets, nuclear secrets, any kind of secrets you can think of, man. These college football coaches act like they are doing the most serious work in the world. And I appreciate the access we get because you guys get to feel like you know what's going on with your football team. And trust me, Tate Rodemaker can play.
I'm looking at YouTube. I don't see anything in the locker room with him. But apparently CBS Atlanta, 7 months ago, Georgia Dog, Adonai Mitchell reflects on national title win. It looks like maybe during the parade they pulled him off to the side or something.
See what I mean?
But yeah, the lengths you have to go to. Yeah.
That's crazy. As he's getting beads thrown at him. Hey, what did it feel like to catch that pass? I mean, that's crazy. By the way, I did write, not that you're ever going to pimp the stuff that we write. I mean, Ira had a great 3-2-1.
I mentioned that. Oh, I mentioned on the Smash. I'm sorry.
On the site. And then I wrote a column about Rodemaker and about, because I think it's fair, man. I think it's fair to wonder, is he always going to, do those 6 passes now kind of define his career? Because the point of the column was, one, making fun of people that thought we were lying to him about what we saw in practice.
They're upset. Yeah, they really think we were. Sorry.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, why would we do that? Like it's almost like you can't comprehend somebody being better at practice than in a game.
Yeah, listen, everybody.
That's incomprehensible to you guys.
I don't ever want to not be able to be negative. If I got something to be negative about, I'm hopping all over it. But he looked good.
Eisland will be all over it.
Jimmy looked good.
So that was the point. Is like there are people in this world, many actually, that are much better at practice than they are at games. The reason being, there's probably a little bit more pressure in the games. And there's something that Leonard Hamilton calls game slippage, where a guy can make 12, 20, 50 threes in a row in practice, but then go 0 for 12 in games when they're the same looks. It's because you're a little more rushed. Your body, it's just a whole different feeling, and you've got to calm down and get used to that feeling to really excel. Unless you're preternaturally gifted, like some of these guys are, Scotty Barnes, Patrick Williams, people like that. But so there's a pretty good chance that Tate Rodemaker, I mean, it's like some people can't grasp the fact that he could look good in practice and then not carried over into games, because that's never happened before. This guy has looked really good at times in practice. Yes. Really good. Now he wasn't Mahomes every day. There were down times too, but overall I thought he had a good camp.
Yes.
And then he goes in and, throws a pick on his second pass, and I gave the context of, like, last year, in the spring, he had a good spring, especially considered where he was coming from. He looked like a real college quarterback, and I had never really seen that before. And I was high on him. I thought he had a really good spring. And then his first pass in the spring game and that stupid, goofy 2-point conversion drill is picked.
That's right.
And it's like, well, this kid just can't get out of his own way. And then the same thing happens in a game against Duquesne. And it's like, okay, man, so he can play well against the Florida State secondary. But against Duquesne's defense, he struggles, just like he struggled against Jacksonville State 2 years ago, just like he struggled anytime we've seen him in a game. There is a chance, and it's sad, and I don't like saying it, there is a chance he might just be a practice player and a guy that can't get over the hump in games. And that's a real problem because, buddy, A.J. Duffy is not ready. And it would appear if Tate Rodemaker can't take that next step and actually play with some confidence and some conviction in games, 13 better go through the whole season healthy. Yeah. Because that is a appreciable dip in production level, in ability, if that's the Tate Rodemaker we get. And it's sad, man. That was kind of my point I made on one of the message board posts. It's like, man, y'all are mad at us instead of being sad for, like, y'all are accusing us of lying or not knowing what we're seeing, as opposed to, like, thinking, oh man, that's kind of sad. This kid lights it up in practice and then kind of, melts down a bit in games and looks like a different player.
Well, the sad thing too is now, again, man, these doubts have to creep back in your head if you're a Florida State fan. Like we'd kind of alleviated some of it. Like, hey, man, if Jordan goes down, it's not going to be great by any stretch, but it won't be that bad. Now it's like, no, man, it's probably going to be really bad.
And that's where you can give us grief, I guess, to say, look, you guys said that they had a nice backup in tow now. Like they had a serviceable backup. I get that. He has been better than serviceable in practice, but we always had the caveat. You had to see it in a game to be a true believer. And what worries you, Aslan, is, and this is one of the points I made in the column, is is it really kind of doesn't matter all that much what we think. What does Tate Rodemaker think about himself? What do his teammates think about him? Because they can't have maybe Tate still has a ton of confidence, but I would doubt it because he didn't play like it. Like, again, I want y'all to know it's not just that he had a bad line. He was 2 of 6 with a pick. He didn't look like the kid that we see standing tall in the pocket with complete command of the offense, like this gunslinger mentality, drop, step, rip it. He didn't look like that guy at all. He looked hesitant. He looked unpoised, and he looked a little rattled, a lot rattled, actually. And that's what was as concerning as the production itself, is that kid didn't carry over the confidence and the swagger that he has in practice to a game. He looked like a different player. And so that's where you wonder, maybe he'll never be able to find that swagger and that confidence in a game. His first pass was batted down. He's 6'6" or 6'5", whatever he is. His first pass is batted down at the line of scrimmage. His second pass is almost a pick six. So that was my point, is that, man, those 6 passes make you really, really concerned about your QB depth chart. Where I think like a week ago, I felt okay about it. Yeah, no, Rodemaker's not as good as Travis. We get it, but he's serviceable. If Travis has to miss a game, Rodemaker can keep you in it. He can make enough plays with his arm. It'll be a little bit different offense, but he can sling it around enough that you could score 30. He might throw a pick or two, but he's going to throw 3 or 4 touchdowns and look good doing it. And he has this gunslinger attitude. And then those 6 passes made me completely reevaluate where I stand on them. And I think they're in serious, serious trouble now if Travis goes down, unless Tate can find some lightning, man, and make 1 or 2 just glorious throws and get some pep in his step and get some confidence, and maybe that's all he needs. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist.
That's fine. Jordan's going to be fine. He's going to be healthy. Strong man. Strong like bull.
He needs to stop leading the way on goal line runs. I can tell you that much. He doesn't need to be the lead blocker anymore. Let Jameis do that stuff, man. You don't need to be ever doing that again.
All right, he's Corey Maslon. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. We'll be back tomorrow, again, live Wednesday, 6 p.m. But in the meantime, headlines live 1 to 3 o'clock today. Have a great one, everybody.